All right. I think we're live. See if I get some echoing in my ears or not, but hopefully not. But yeah, tonight, guys, we're gonna wait for some people to hop on, hopefully. I see somebody, a couple people are on already. Sweet. We're gonna wait a little bit, hop on. I'm a short night tonight a little bit, just because as you can see in the chat there, our city thought it would be a great idea to do fireworks tonight, which if the thunderstorm doesn't go away, they might cancel them. So we'll see. So but had viewers, they're gone. But yeah, we're gonna go through some stuff here real quick. Quick like, you guys want any questions you got about XCS? I mean, anything. Throw it out there. Like I said, the only ones I don't own that I don't know a lot about are the M1 series right now. Uh, this weekend I'm gonna go learn about some of the new ones that are coming out. The Metal Fab and the DTF printer. We're gonna go learn about some of those things this weekend. So that'll be interesting to learn on that stuff. I don't own one of those, but we're gonna learn on them. So again, if you guys got any questions on anything, you want to know how to do something, like I said, we're gonna go over I don't know what laser kerf is in the XCS world. I'm not gonna really cover it in every aspect. And every laser is a little bit different. A lot of my bases are gonna be off of P2 because I'm doing it with acrylic. So biggest thing with that kind of stuff is have a good set of calipers because you need to know how thick your material is to get an accurate size for hole or all that stuff. Uh, Theoretically, depending on which direction you're trying to measure. So I guess we'll hop into XCS and go from there. Harvey, nice to see that you can make it. I appreciate it every time, buddy. So, all right, let's go into XCS. All right. So with Kerf, the biggest thing, I'm not sure why people are struggling a lot. I'm just gonna say this is, my rectangle. Just keep looking over here. Our craft fair went okay for it's a farmer's market that we did last week. So that didn't go too bad. Now I'm in the gauntlet for the next 2 weeks. So like I said, I'm actually traveling to California tomorrow. Should be fun. Just myself. And then next week we have another farmer's market and then my 10-day fair. So my 10-day show. So it's a lot of getting stuff around and getting ready and inventory. So next Thursday we will not have a live. So and I might do one at fair. I'm gonna test this to Wi-Fi out down there. But we might do a quick live kind of pop on. I may have some people pop on with me, but for that one, and then we'll do another group live like we did the last time on the 24th. So we'll get Mike and Carrie and Jacob, Steven back. Hopefully I can get them all back on the 24th. Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, Harvey, it's going to be classes all day, and I look at flying late Friday and classes all day Saturday, most of the day Sunday, and fly out late Sunday night. So not going to see much California besides inside of a building and maybe a restaurant. So let's see. So with Kerf, again, it's one of those things where again, I don't know why people. I know why people are struggling with it because it's one of those things, but it's different. So say you have a let's go with a circle. You know, had a circle out here. So you have a circle on the inside, and then you have a cutout on the outside. We're gonna cut this out. Kind of jumped a little bit of conclusion. Did the Boolean, the kind of things we talked about earlier. So it's just subtraction. Then I click union. So that was silly of me. Subtract. It was good last week. It was definitely a lot going on. I got picked on because forgot to give me my wife's name. This is a very big part of the business. I make sure everybody's aware of that. So, but Kerf, so you got two different things here. So you got, I actually have to do this the other way. You're digging noises on my computer. So, uh, so I want to do this. So it's a protrusion. But this will be different. So she did the right first time. So this will be different than this because the pieces you're trying to put together. So that's one of those things that it's definitely handy to have. And I'm gonna actually do it here. I got a piece of a red acrylic. Show you. I'll turn the camera back on here. So we got some red acrylic in here. We'll do this a little smaller. Small. But normally what I would do, trying to figure out how to do this. Let's do this. So this would be the mating piece to this. I'm just doing hypothetical stuff here, guys. So, and again, if people don't know about guidelines, these things are so handy. And they work better though when snap is on. So Control R turns those on. Let's go this way. See how it snaps? That's why I wasn't snapping though before because it was trying to snap to there. It's unfortunate that's not top. Little offset ain't gonna hurt nothing. Is what I can do for what I want to do because I'm gonna cut this notch out of this. I'm actually gonna copy this one, just do an offset. And we had some discussion last week about this offset a little bit. I think I'm a big fan of doing offset 0. Some people said they're having some issues with it, not copying exactly. I have not had an issue with offset 0, and to me that makes a perfect copy of everything. Uh, that's just my preference. So to each their own. So, but now I got two pieces here. So like this is what I would tell people is normally cut this one normal. We'll cut these two pieces out of different material just so you're not saying, hey, you cut them out of the same piece. Uh, just to show that the fits fit together like they should. So with acrylic, and again, it's going to vary between a 20-watt diode laser and a 40-watt. Again, I'm basing most of this off acrylic numbers, and they've worked. And it's somebody else I found online, and the numbers been darn near spot on every time, and it's been nice and snug and all that good stuff. So, like I said, we won't cut right now. I'm not going to cut this one out because the way we're going to do it, you know, go a little bit deeper in this. So I'm just doing a node edit here because I want to make this stuff a little bit longer, using my arrow keys to make that longer. I did it. I hit it 2 times. This is the kind of way I'd make some adjustments if I'm just trying to get something like we're doing right now. So I'm just going to do the same thing over here. This 2 times. 3. 3. One more. So, but yeah, well, again, the Kerf thing, we're going over Kerf, people are hopping on. I'm going to cut these two out right now. I cut them normal. I have my settings. Honestly, I think I'm going to run my black cut settings. I don't change a lot between these two. Seems to work for me. I do have paper because there's a little bit of paper back here. I might slow it down a little bit. But black, I actually run a little bit faster. The way I run faster. Um, Turn my tabs off because I don't need those. So again, I run these, don't change no curve, nothing. This is a because you don't want to do it on both pieces. You only want to do it on one piece. That's where people I think are might be having the issue too. But you know what? We're gonna do one of the things. I know somebody was having a question about an angle, and it still wasn't fitting. So that was something else. So what I'm gonna do is do this. Set an angle. Just saying it wasn't the angle. Everything else solid was fitting fine. Angles were not. So we'll do this cut real quick. I got another camera I can show you when we go to put these pieces together. Gotta make sure this isn't like super tiny. So I'm not gonna get a sliver, an inch by whatever. So all right, so we turn this one off. So we're not outputting that one. That one's just like an output. We're gonna cut this one, move it over just to get it off. It's sticky back there. Make sure we're on honeycomb because that does make a difference. If you're not, it's not going to make a huge difference, but it does. It does, especially with wood. It makes a difference because the machine reads differently if you're on the different stuff. So that's why I do tell people I'm a big fan of aimed. Aimed measure is I use that every time. I very rarely use the red dot just because if I don't have a piece for exactly where that red dot is, it's going to give you misinformation. So shit this. It's like telling me nothing. It's mixed. So we go cut. And then again, these are my user defines. Again, like I told you, I was using black. For some reason, I have tabs on this generation. I got to, for some reason, turn that off. I don't use tabs on this. I do use tabs quite a bit on my conveyor. That's probably why that was on there. Process. And tell me anything about this. It's because I changed. So when you change from slats, I already measured. I changed the honeycomb. I didn't redo it. So again, if anybody's on, hop it on. You know, I see a few people there, but if you're on and you've got a question about anything, throw it in the chat. We'll cover it. I'm on a little bit of a limit time tonight. Rain keeps coming. I might not have to bail early, but not early. Actually at 10 o'clock. So again, they want to do fireworks a week early, which is odd, but this. All right. That's not too loud. Well, but yeah, so right now we're just cutting acrylic. Going to the kerf setup because kerf is again it's your laser beam. It's just the width of your laser beam, so you're compensating for that. Everything's cutting down the center of a line. It's not left to right from what I'm seeing. Uh, the one thing about kerf, when we go back, so we'll go back right now. So we're gonna cut these other two pieces out of black. So I'm going to just not output this one. Now I'm not taking these exact pieces. Now, again, why I'm doing this because this I want my offset to be here, not here. Now, if you want this to be separate, just want this to be offset, then you got to start breaking it up a little bit and it's a little funny. So that's where, again, we're talking very small amounts to be offset. So what I've seen in a lot of this stuff, cuts, turn this on. Same with these two. Let's get them all. Like this. So tab generation. So this is where I think a lot of people are getting bit on the tab generation or the kerf is the kerf is always going to be millimeters. This number, when you turn this on, this is still millimeters. Even though I'm in inches, this is still going to be millimeters. So you still got to know your differences. You can't do 0.01 is very, very small, very small. So you definitely want to, my go-to right now, and this has been work. And then again, it might vary again when you start going a little bit thicker acrylic. This is on 1/8 inch acrylic. 0.13, 0.12 has been kind of my go-to. And then, like I said, we'll test and see if this proves out. I'll see if I prove myself wrong. One or two. So, show it's doing a different material here. Some black. I do like cutting my acrylic with my paper on it. So just to let you guys know, that's a question. I don't like actually cutting it without the paper on it because it helps with, I mean, it's just like masking. And obviously you don't want to go super slow, but put tabs in there. Get big. I broke it. Broke it. Well, we do the whole. I could put tabs in there. Grab some tab off in that slot. Still can kind of do it. All right. Refresh. Again, if you guys got questions, the guys that are people that are on, if you're on, throw a question in the chat. We can answer it for you. Anything. I mean, like I said, the only ones I don't really know a lot about is M1. Like I said, it's masking is a only acrylic. I only mask acrylic. I leave the paper on the acrylic. I don't go out of my way to throw masking on wood. I have no problem going a little deeper into the wood and sanding it. Another thing you could do is actually put your polyurethane on, stain it polyurethane on it, then go back and grave it. Because the polyurethane actually helps. Then you can go back with a baby wipe and just wipe off that. So you look. So that's where sometimes you'll get people will be selling pre-stained materials. That's what the benefit is for that. So a lot of stuff like maybe do at shows. If you want to do stuff at shows, you can have it pre-stained, stuff like that, pre-clear coated. So yeah, looks like I put a tab in both these things. Okay, hit tabs in. All right, so let's move all this stuff up there. So right now we're just cutting these out. And like I said, 0.13 is definitely the go-to for me. Again, I found some guy online that I wish I could tell you what his name was. This is the one thing you do got to watch for is the outward and inward. So right now I want to offset my piece because I'm actually the circle and I gotta compensate. So I need to go outward. Now this one I do need to go the other way because I need to go inward on this one because I gotta think about this. Yeah, because I want it to be smaller inside. And that's again where people I think have issues. They think it's all the same direction. That's why I want to do the two different tabs because that's where it does mess you up. So this one needs to actually be, you can see how that tells you inward or outward. So three. So again, we're just going to cut this stuff. This is not outputting. We're just going to cut this. We're going to cut circles and stuff. Tabs are on. Make sure tabs aren't on. Didn't accidentally do that again. Fresh. Now again, I'm not going to change my material just because it should be the same thickness. I'm not that worried about it. Uh, yeah. Start. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of the Kerf thing. And that's what I think is that a lot of people, the millimeter thing, I think bites people. No, wait. And again, I don't know if you guys can hear me over my machine or not. So Just small, easy cuts. Sitting on something. So they, yeah, make sure that, especially with the honeycomb, there'll be a little nugget sitting up, especially in the spots where there's rails. You gotta watch for those because those will bite you. I've done it a few times. All right, right on the machine. We'll leave that on. I'm gonna switch the camera here so you guys can see. Stop sharing XCS here for a second. Switch this other camera. See if I look silly or not. Let's see this one. All right, so there's a red piece. I did break it. So what happens when you try to pop these things apart and not pay attention. Uh, and I'm just gonna show you real quick with the red piece putting that piece back in. I mean, it goes back in. Yes, you can see the line, but yeah, it is a very small curve. Ah, try a new camera here, guys. So put the red piece back in. Yes, you're gonna have a little bit of a gap there, but it's one of those things. So with the black piece, again, feel it's you can hear that one in nice and tight. Uh, it's definitely not falling out. It's be better, but you can see there's no gap there. I mean, you're gonna have that char, but again, that 1.3, that 0.13 has been definitely a go-to for me. I'm really excited. I really wish I could tell you who that was that I told me about that. So again, if anybody's got any questions, please put them in the chat so we can cover anything. Again, if I don't know it, if I can't answer it, I will get you in touch with somebody that can. So this is that angle piece. Again, I broke it, so it's hard to tell you exactly if it's going to go in the way we want to, but I can't really tell exactly. But I would have said it would have went in there nicely. I mean, it slides in there nice. Wish it was a little bit more snug. So maybe it does need to be a little bit bigger when it goes 45, but it's definitely not sloppy. So it's definitely not on the sloppy side. So it's definitely right there. So I think it would have been nice and snug. And then our tab here. So sorry for people that are hopping on and just seeing my hands and all this good stuff. Trying to prove out some kerf ideas. Uh, so I mean, this is so again, it could be a little bit snug, more snug even. I mean, you could so you know so a little bit, but again, I'm not wobbly, but oh, this is I know why. Like I said, this one was off a little bit. It's like it didn't really burn through well. So there is a little bit of a burn lip on the bottom. I think I was sitting on something. My laser. Or to my photo. But yeah. So that's definitely yeah, make me think about that one. Switch back cameras here. So yeah, this one here, I'm definitely gonna have to think about it because it definitely not. It's not tight, but it's definitely not as tight. Yeah, 'cause we didn't have kerf on that one, and I want to add it inside. And that might be one of those things where maybe inside needs to be a little bit hotter, a little bit higher. It's dramatically different. I just want to burn that one again and see because that one just doesn't seem right. Let's check that one. There's Tracy. What's up, buddy? Talking about Kerf tonight. Again, I'm probably wasting too much time on it. If anybody else has got some questions on XCS in general, it don't have to be just this topic. Uh, any questions? We're gonna try to burn this one again. I'm trying to do the test here. Refresh. Always refresh your camera. This stuff doesn't always end up in the same spot. See? Man, coincident. I kind of made a face. It's been one of those nights. Inward should offset inside. I'm gonna do a test. Just copy and paste. We're gonna do one inward and both inward, but I'm gonna do one more because that was sloppy still. So curious. 1.13 process. So they both have their benefits. I do like the cameras in the P2 just because I can go back and I can pick stuff up. I mean, if I didn't have something burned through, I can go back in there, pick it up, throw a line on there or whatever, and recut it back out and not be worried about it. It's not have to sit there and use a knife all the time. But I do like the S1 and I wish they still would show the crosshairs. That's nice to know. In theory, I mean, I guess you don't need it on the P2, but it's still nice to have. So, because to me, I like using the S1 to do tumblers. It's easier to line up. Use the crosshairs to line up. And again, that goes back to me and being starting out with the D1. D1 was laser line. We use the crosshair, so it feels like home to me. So this one here was the 2.3. You know what? I wonder if the height was different on this one. He's definitely changed by a lot. They shouldn't have, but I did rechange the height. I'm curious. Sorry, I'm pondering, guys, because the inward should be creating the right offset. Maybe that's why. Now I gotta do one, but now I gotta do one more, and then we'll move on to the all the Boolean operations. If you guys don't know what Boolean operations are. That's your union, subtract overlap, and subtract the union overlap. So we'll go over those here in a little bit. If we get time to do photos, we'll do those. But yeah, I have to because the height didn't actually change that much, and those things are huge. Just doesn't make no sense. Put it back in. Also, just see if you guys have seen the new update that's coming out. I'm not saying to not get it. Again, I'm a very advocate for getting updates, but a lot of those updates right now in this new one are going to be majorly for the metal fab and the DTF printer that are all being shipped out here really soon. It's not being shipped out. So this is what the update is primarily for. There's a couple, I did see there was a firmware update for the P2. I do recommend getting those. that because that it looked like there was a connection thing on that, so that might help some people with some connection issues. All right, so now we're gonna mix this up. We're gonna go the other way. Prove myself wrong. Let's do that. That again, I don't want to talk about you guys. Your machines running. Let me know. Can you hear me on the machines running? Sometimes it picks up, sometimes the mic is right pointing at it, so that's why it might be picking it up. Let me know in the chat if you can. If you guys do like what I'm doing, I'm kind of demonstrating. Please like, share, let people know. All right. So no, it makes sense. So I did make it. I did go the opposite way. So the outward on that square. So on these, but yeah, I didn't think about that. That actually does make sense because it'd be the same as a whole. So I wouldn't want to go outward. No, because I'm making that smaller. See, that's where to me that doesn't make sense. That this should be the other way, but going negative or outward. I think about this. See, I do. You gotta think about this. This is where what I say is you follow it around. You go outward, out, out. That's why it's tighter on the inside of that square. So I gotta do that every time. That's why I do it like kind of chase. I'm gonna do outside. It's gonna go in outward, which is weird because then you would think, well, that's why those are going outward because it's actually going this direction because they're not part of it. That makes sense. That's why it's gonna go outward instead of inward. Now, if this was union and you did that, it'd be their other. It'd move your offset the opposite way. So see, that's where I try not to do that. I try not to move both because that is where you I think could be one or the other. It's outward is going to be always the way I'm looking at it is outward is here. So if I'm taking this, it's going to go outward. It goes away from the. So even in here, it's going to go outward, 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 which is going to make this tighter. Same thing with these because they're technically not part of this, even though we think it's inside as a union. Now, if I union this, I'm sorry, I did like a subtracted overlap, and now I did outward, it would go the other way. It would actually make these smaller, will make this bigger. So that's where it's gonna base it off of a shape. So that's where you gotta be careful what way you're doing it, and if it's and that's where, like I said, a lot of stuff, even with Kerf, so with Kerf and tabs, I normally don't cut stuff out. I don't union it. I leave everything separate. I release it in theory like that. Because then I can mess with it. I can do stuff independently. That's just the way I prefer. You group it so it stays together. But like that's how I'd color a different color because then I can go and just mess with the color and still leave it grouped. Stuff like that. So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, I had to get it myself wrapped around it, but now it makes sense why we did what happened. But if you want to see what we did with the circle, I mean, I did have a black one that worked pretty good. I can do my close-up camera and show you, but that is why. But like I said, I always try to keep one, don't change it, don't move it. So I only got one variable. I don't ever want to do, I'm gonna offset this one this way and this one this way, because then now you're just competing. And like you said, if you go the wrong way, depending on how you have it, it's one of those things. Uh, so again, if people haven't noticed, these are all separate, right? if you're new, if you don't know how to change your colors, right click. Right click gives you a lot of great features. So just changing these colors so you can kind of see what's going on here. This. So with the different Boolean operations you have, and then when I say Boolean operations, I like doing. We're gonna jump to the Boolean stuff now. I like the fact that the color. I always tell people when you're doing cuts, removes, additives, in theory, editing is not union. You kind of know what it's going to do. I like hit engrave. So right now, these two here are technically behind this one. So I'm going to bring this to the back. So hit engrave. So this one. So, so like right now, in a layer tree cake system, you kind of look at it. This one's obviously on top of the purple one, the purple's on top of the blue one. That's kind of the way you got to look at stuff. It was so why the curve thing got brought up. There were some people, again, I've seen a bunch of comments on it lately, so it's kind of why I want to try to hit those ones that I see during the week. Again, if people are hopping on, we're not going to do this next week. Just for 4th of July, I think people are going to be on vacation. I'm going to try to focus on show stuff. So, and then we'll look at, well, fair the next week. And I probably won't do it that week. It won't be the week of the 10th either, just because that's our move-in date. So, but possibly the following week. Like I said, we might do a live down at fair. So anyways, real quick, subtract union. So like union, you want to add, like using this one as an example. I'm a big hotkeys guy. If you hit R on your keyboard, it's a rectangle. You want to keep it square, hold shift down, keep it square. Um, Again, I'm big on engraving just so you can see what sits where. You want to union these two together, just union. Now, what it does when you do union something, all your settings for this feature go back to 0. Make sure you go back and update your cut settings. And so anytime you do a Boolean operation, release a font, do this, do that, it's stuff that you want to make sure you go back. So that's a union. Subtract basically is, so this is sitting on top. It's like a cookie cutter. I like to explain it that way. It's just whatever's on top gets pressed down through. So now that's gone. It's not there. Now, like I said, if you engrave this, it's going to engrave everything and leave that spot is what it's going to do. So now one thing that people get frustrated with is this was sent to the back and you're looking at it in this form. You're like, I want to cut this out. I select both and I hit subtract. It's going to tell you, nope, I can't do that. It's telling you, no, you can't do that because it can't push the top one through the other one because it's going to make it disappear. That's why it's telling you no. Let's see if this proves me wrong again. So I like subtracted overlap because then it doesn't matter. But that you got to be careful with sometimes. In this sense, it didn't make a difference because it's only two. It's when you start grabbing more than two features. And again, anytime there's a thing on the screen, this is a feature, this is a feature, now this whole thing's a feature. When I say that, that's what I mean by features. So, because even I think, let's do this. So now, if you ever want to release these, go back to what they kind of were. Obviously, the union won't go back, but just go up here to the top, hit release. So now these two pieces here, again, are separate entities, which is nice. So, but if I'm just going to do, oh, I want to do both of these. So if I do both of these, all this, and do subtracted overlap, just curiosity. Sometimes the order will give you some variations. So just be careful. If it doesn't give you what you want, go back and either do one at a time or do a subtract, stuff like that. Now, say if you want to cut this corner off on this block, again, we'll go back to rectangle. We want to cut this off instead, you know. And this is again where people, even if I have this sitting over here, it's there. I'm only going to do these two features. This can be in my way. It ain't going to hurt nothing. Don't hold the caps button down. And then just hit subtract. I hit union again. Subtract. It'll notch it out. Even though this was in my way, as long as it's not part of it, it's not going to remove it. So that's where, like I said, a lot of people get all finicky about trying to do these things with the nodes, and I'm not big on doing all this stuff. I do a lot with, I still use the pen tool a lot, but I use the to make a box to cut something out, and then I go back and clean up the nodes. I don't use the node tool to do a lot of editing. You've seen me do it earlier, but oh, people, you got to tell me this sooner. Thank you, Ray. I switched cameras and I forgot to share back. Forgot to share. Now I got to start over. Harvey, come on, buddy. It's all good. Thank you. So again, we'll go back and explain all that I just showed you guys, 'cause I didn't have my screen on and not paying attention. Let's see. Let's release this. So again, this is a release. Uh, man, I appreciate it, but that sucks. Shouldn't have better. So again, features. Everything's a feature. This is a feature. This is a feature by itself. Everything I can select is I consider a feature. Now, I want to change colors. Again, now that you guys can see what I'm doing, I'm going to go a little faster just to understand. Uh, again, I like to do stuff to engrave. Later tomorrow. I got time. So again, cookie cutter concept. If you're doing just subtract, as long as it's on top, hit subtract, it'll cut it through. If this is behind it, again, a lot of people like doing stuff in again, I do the same thing. I look at it through score cut. You're like, hey, why won't that cut through? If I try to subtract this, it's going to yell at you, tell you, hey, I can't do this. This is not available. Again, it's where a lot of the times I tell people to use subtract the overlap. So if it's overlapping, it will subtract it. And I will show you why this doesn't always work. So now it's subtracted. Great. And then you get the cutout. Now, if you do have an issue, an instance where species again, say this is not necessarily attached, but another feature that's up in this corner. This does run over top of it, and then you box select all this. And now I do a subtracted overlap. This is where it gets funny. See, now what it did is it kind of unioned it and subtracted it at the same time, and it will give you this. That's where the subtracted overlap, gotta watch it because it will give you a void too if it's in space like that. So that's where it's doesn't always work. Sometimes does, you know. And then say I think this does the same thing too if you do release it first. But you make complete, I think it does the same thing as that. Yeah, see, it does the same thing as kind of like subtract overlap. So you can't really do it that way. If you were trying to actually union that all together, release in this sense, because they're in open space, I would just go union. So those should have union. See what it did. Let's see what it did. That's weird. Did I hit subtract? This? Oh, that's weird. Sometimes you just gotta select everything. It just sometimes it just helps. So now I got that. So hopefully, Ray. This is Razor. I don't know. The names. I like to call people by their names, but hey, I appreciate the help. Telling me that the screen wasn't showing. That would suck, but then the whole rest of this thing, and then now we've seen anything. No need to see my guffy face all the time. Um, does anybody got any other questions? Like I said, if you got a question, uh, I know one that. So hey, say you got uh this piece here, like we got, maybe I want to cut off. Trying to see how I don't want to do this whole thing. I just want to do like part of it. I want to cut this outside edge off. So in this sense, make sure. So I grab this, and this is where, like I said, I wish they would kind of change the way this union and overlap is for, because really what it does, it's more of a trim tool. So everything on the outside gets removed. So now you have your radiuses, your corners. And again, like this is why I always tell people there's ways to get to the radiuses and your corners. It's a little more work than say like light burn, but I could get there. We can make everything look right. It's just, yeah, I think you're steps ahead, unfortunately. So, I mean that's a big one. Again, then just node editing, you know, and that's where, like I said, people, I gotta tell people, with node editing, you don't want to go in here and edit these nodes and say, hey, move them down and make these two overlap, because I think it should actually, yeah, it's gonna remove material. Why it does that, I don't know. That's why I don't like people. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna cut this away or move this, and it doesn't always work the way they think it's going to. Then they complain why it's not doing what they want it to. You know, and there is the benefit of node editing is you can go in here and say, hey, I want to make this square. You can make it square. There's definitely benefits, and you can do a lot of stuff. Again, it's just time and bring something in and trace it out. It's all doable. It's just how fast do you want to do it. So, that makes it worse actually. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions on that kind of stuff? Like I said, we got about 25, 20 minutes, 15 minutes left. You got questions, please put them in the chats. Like I said, I want to tell you I can answer just about anything, but not always. But I have a very broad group of friends that I can get you an answer if I don't know it. Photos. We're gonna do some photos. I'm doing a lot of photos lately. I like doing photos, and I really, really, really have been liking doing them on black acrylic lately. It's kind of like my go-to lately. So I've done a lot of them in the last few days. Oops. It's like this one. So I did this one for a friend. Uh, Again, you can do a lot of cool things. It's all good. Photos are fun. You don't be scared of photos. I mean, the dark, I really do like doing them on. I don't mind doing them on wood. The problem with doing it on wood is you get more variables with the grain, the darkness of the wood. I like trying to eliminate as many variables as possible. So slate, black acrylic, anodized materials, all that stuff all day long. I usually have no issues figuring out where I need to be. Because even like this one, I was a little worried, and I wish I had my example, but I think I just cut it all up on myself. It was on the back of this one. Actually, we have it. I can show you what this one looked like here. Um, when I got done with this job. But so photos, there's a couple different things you can do. Maybe this guy is you think this is going to blend in too much with the tree. If I did some wood, I would be worried. I was worried that he was too far into the tree. It's going to be too dark. Uh, Adjust is a big thing you want to do because I mean everything's black and white because this is what I was worried about. There's ways to say, hey, I want to adjust just the guy. I don't really want to do. Let's see if I have my file. why I'm doing this because I already pulled the guy out before. So, uh, having this one is in my other screen. Shoot, wrong button. So, I mean, you can go in there and say, "Hey, I want to make this guy, stand out more." I do really like the AI cutout, and I'm going to spend the thing just to show you guys that this is worth. It really is worth it because it does a very good job of cutting the backgrounds out of stuff. Uh, Now, if you want to go in there and change this up, make sure it's not getting all, if you want. And I didn't even think about this. I was trying to do this yesterday. Maybe I want to retain some of this background of the wheel. Because I'll show you what I'm going to try to do here. This is a question that popped up. If it is off the work surface, Pamela, it will not engrave. I think I'm answering your question. Let me know if that was covering what you're looking for. Like this, I want the background, and I'll show you why, what I'm trying to do, because I want to be able to adjust just the shading of him. So like the bike stuff here, I do want to leave. This is like I said, and I wasn't real prominent. Don't buy the points. Don't I mean for the $10, I got 1,500 points, 1,500 credits. I know it's them. So I'm saying trying to get a little bit more money, but hey, it does such a good job removing the background. And people are like, what other software do you use? I don't use any other software besides XCS to pull out, you know, stuff like this. So say now I got this guy. I do wish it would snap more to size. I mean, I can go in here and crop. I think it will come down a little bit, but I wish it would auto kind of snap. Don't really matter for because of what I'm going to do. And this is another thing that people don't realize they could do. Or she left it inside. Um, Even on a PNG file, so like this, now, hey, I want to make this into an ornament or something. I can actually click on this and offset this character. I can offset it. And now I can engrave that on a piece of black acrylic and give it to him as a Christmas ornament or something. Cut that out, engrave it. Obviously, you can do this on the F1, S1. Engraving on the S1's not as, I mean, if you have the IR laser, I would definitely do it. I'm just saying this is another option. Um, Now why I was going to do this. I already got ahead of myself. Size we are. Let me see front back. Send it to the back. This is kind of why I was going to do this. Again, get to pay attention to your order operations. Always have 2 copies of whatever you do with the size you're going to do it. It's always handy. What I'm going to do. So say I wanted to keep this photo, I can adjust just the guy. Now I can adjust just the background because what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset this background at 0. And again, why I got to do this, and I'll explain here in a second. Just because I'm not going to try to pull this over. Offset this one again, and I'm actually going to do this one at 0 this time. So now, let's change the. Now if I go on and hit my orange layer, got something else out there. It's orange. Don't need that more. We got time. Again, if you guys like what I'm doing, appreciate if you like what we got going on, share it. It's one of those YouTube thingies. It helps me out, gets my stuff out there. I do appreciate it. So if I do this is a mask. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask him out. So I can bring the black and white one that I have This way it lets me adjust. I get this is a little more above level on the masking realms, but this is stuff that you can do in XCS. You know, it's not super difficult. I would have done it all at one time. So again, they matched up a little bit better. I might be off a little bit here, but uh so actually no, I'm gonna actually hide this guy. Tap him off just a hair, but we'll see how bad. So once I have this, actually, you know what? I already messed up. Orange layer. You have to union this because you can't have two different features again. We'll go back to that. So my outline of my guy and the outside of the box, they have to be one. So I have to union those together. Looks like they actually did union because it's not separating them. It's weird. I hate it when it does that. It's not there. That's weird. Oh, it's showing the outside of the guy. That's why. Show. You ever lose something and it doesn't turn back on? You can go to layers and turn it on. For some reason, it did not offset that one outside. Zero. There. Now, orange layer. Why is it giving me that? Why is it making me select? Now I can see, did the wrong button again. That darn union button's getting me every time tonight. Subtract. So now I have one orange layer. Now if I do this, it's gonna look weird because I have the guy out there, and I'll show you in here in a second. If I create a mask, it's actually cutting out the guy. Done. See, that's what I thought. I was gonna miss that inside. I can go back and throw that in there, but in theory, like I said, now I don't want to pull it away like that, but now you can change both the background and the foreground of the guy, and you can adjust things. You know, if I need the background to be a little bit darker, him to be brighter, I can adjust just him now. And that was something that I was a little worried about. Like I said, here I'll grab the fire photo I did on my F1. What else? Fix it. Uh, Again, yeah. If anybody out there that likes it, we're gonna stop. So hopefully that makes sense. You know, again, it is a mask. So as you can see, I masked out where the guy was, so we can actually have two different ones. So again, this is definitely more of the advanced side of it. Um, if somebody ever does want to use the cutout feature, I did have to learn this yesterday because I was running out of points. So if you hover over the thing right here, you can buy more credits or check your credits. It does let you, like I said, I think it was $10, got me 1,000 credits, and it's really going to cover a lot of stuff. So let you do a lot of stuff, a lot of cool things that, you know, I don't have to go and submit stuff. You can do it that way too, but so let's stop sharing. Again, if anybody, one of these days, I might get somebody other. Thank you, Pamela, for the comment. I appreciate it. I do. You can do so much more with photos than you could 6 months ago. It's crazy. And I really like what they've been doing with it. But so like I said, this photo here, project I did for a customer, stop sharing. I'm gonna show it off just because some of the other stuff I can't show off as much, but it's kind of where we're at with it. So it's definitely, like I said, I really like doing the black and white photos. We did a nice box. You know, I made this up in XCS. You know, some of the design features like the bushings here would take some from some other boxes that I've bought. So but I like the way that those bushing kind of setups worked. But yeah, so I'm not just a talker. I try to practice what I preach. So again, if anybody ever has any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll go back and I read all these videos. So even if you're not on the live with us, you leave it in the comments. I will go back. I usually try to answer them. Again, I know my next couple of weeks are going to be hectic. Going to California, do some stuff with X Tool this weekend, and then shows next two, and the following weekend, 4th of July weekend. Then we have our big 10-day fair. So, and then like I said, maybe we'll do a live. That will be my next live. Will be possibly during the fair. Again, it'll be more of a atmosphere of stuff I got to deal with. So, all right, we will talk to you guys later. Have a good one.